We made it to the room without... We hurried through the casino and up the rear escalator. We made it to the room without meeting anybody. But the key wouldn't open the door. My attorney was struggling desperately with it. Those bastards have changed the lock on us, he groaned. They probably searched the room. Jesus, we're finished. Suddenly the door swung open. We hesitated, then hurried inside. No sign of trouble. Bolt everything, said my attorney. Use all chains. He was staring at the 2 mint hotel room keys in his hand. Where did this one come from? He said, holding a key with the number 1221 on it. That's Lacerda's room, I said. He smiled. Yeah, that's right. I thought we might need it. What for? Let's go up there and blast him out of bed with a fire hose, he said. No, I said. We should leave the poor bastard alone. I get the feeling he's avoiding us for some reason. Don't kid yourself, he said. That Portuguese son of a bitch is dangerous. He's watching us like a hawk, he squinted at me. Have you made a deal with him? I talked with him on the phone, I said. While you were out getting the car wash. He said he was turning in early so he can get out there to the starting line at dawn. My attorney was not listening. He uttered an anguished cry, smacked the wall with both of his hands. That dirty bastard, he shouted. I knew it. He got a hold of my woman. I laughed. That little blonde groupie with her film crew? You think he's sodomized? That's right. Laugh about it, he yelled. You goddamn honkies are all the same. By this time, he'd opened up a new bottle of tequila and was quaffing it down. Then, he grabbed a grapefruit, sliced it in half with a Gerber Mini Magnum, a stainless steel hunting knife with a blade like a fresh honed straight razor. Where'd you get that knife? I asked. Room service sent it up, he said. I wanted something to cut the lines. Fresh tissue. Fresh tissue for the wounds, boys. The motorcycle crash wounds.
Nice. Just like Hunter Thompson.
Really?
Yeah, he had a bad motorcycle accident.
What happened to him?
I believe he broke his leg. He was riding with his friend in San Francisco.
Was he wearing a helmet?
That I'm not sure, but I have to think maybe. But I don't know. He's also pretty daredevilish.
He's a daredevil.
You're a daredevil.
What limes? They didn't have any, he said. They don't grow them out here in the desert. He sliced the grapefruit into quarters, then into eighths, then sixteenths. Then he began slashing aimlessly at the residue. That dirty toad bastard, he groaned. I knew I should have taken him out when I had the chance. Now he has her. I remember the girl. We'd have a problem with her on the elevator a few hours earlier. My attorney had made a fool of himself. You must be a writer, she'd said. Hang on.
What class are you in?
How do you know?
I'm reading it as well.
Oh. Class, he snapped. What the fuck do you mean? What do you rad? She asked with a quick smile. We're filming the race for a TV series. Maybe we can use you. Use me? Mother of God, I thought. Here it comes. The elevator was crowded with race people. It was taking a long time to get from floor to floor. By the time we'd stopped at 3, he was trembling badly. 5 more to go. I ride the big ones, he shouted suddenly. The really big fuckers. I laughed, trying to diffuse the scene. The Vincent Black Shadow, I said. We're with the factory team. This brought a murmur of rude dissent from the crowd. Bullshit! Somebody behind me muttered. Wait a minute, my attorney shouted, and then to the girl. Pardon me, lady, but I think there's some kind of ignorant chicken sucker in this car who needs his face cut open. He plunged his hand into the side of his black plastic jacket and turned to face the people crowded in the rear of the elevator. You cheap honky faggots, he snarled. Which one of you wants to get cut? I was watching the overhead floor indicator. The door opened at 7, but nobody moved. Dead silence. The door closed, up to 8, then opened again. Still no sound or movement in the crowded car. Just as the door began to close, I stepped off and grabbed his arm, jerking him out just in time. The door slid shut and the elevator clinged 9. Quick! Into the room, I said. Those bastards will have the pigs on us. We ran around the corner to the room. My attorney was laughing wildly. Spooked, he shouted. Did you see that? They were spooked, like rats in a death cage. Then, as we bolted the door behind them, he stopped laughing. God damn, he said. It's serious now. That girl understood. She fell in love with me. Now, many hours later, He was convinced that Lacerda, the so-called photographer, had somehow got his hands on the girl. Let's go up there and castrate that fucker, he said, waving the new knife around in quick circles around his teeth. Did you put him onto her? Look, I said, you better put that goddamn blade away and get your head straight. I have to put the car in the lot. I was backing slowly towards the door. One of the things you learn after dealing with drug people is that everything is serious. You can turn your back on a person, but never turn your back on a drug, especially when it's waving a razor-sharp hunting knife in your eyes. Take a shower, I said. I'll be back in 20 minutes. I left, locking the door behind me, and taking the key to Lacerda's room, the one my attorney had stolen earlier. That poor geek, I thought as I hurried down the escalator. They sent him out here on this perfectly reasonable assignment. Just a few photos of motorcycles and dune buggies, racing around the desert. And now he was plunged without realizing it to the maw of some world besides his ken. Beyond his ken. There was no way he could possibly understand what was happening. You want to use this one?
No, let's use this.
Wait, let me ask you. Is it weird to you that the rooms are lockable from the outside at this time? So you could just leave your hotel room and lock whoever was in there like an outdoor bolt?
Well, I assume it probably wasn't. He probably means he locked the door when he left, but I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
Possible. It may be at a hotel, but that does seem weird.
You sure you don't want to use this?
Yeah.
Because that way we can keep on the same page, and I don't have to follow along.
You don't have to follow along.
But then I gotta find it when you switch back to me.
Yeah, but this is hard to read with our terrible light. All right.
All right, it's okay. I was just asking, just checking.
I like that thing, but it's hard to read, like right here.
Like a real book.
It is nice when you have good light. We have nice light, but not enough of it.
Go for it.
What were we doing out here? What was the meaning of this trip? Did I actually have a big red convertible out there on the street? Was I just roaming through these Mint Hotel escalators in a drug frenzy of some kind? Or had I come out to Las Vegas to work on a story? I reached in my pocket for the room key. 1850, it said. At least that much was real. So my immediate task was to deal with the car and get back to that room, and hopefully to get straight enough to cope with whatever might happen at dawn. Now off the escalator into the big casino. Big crowds still tight around the craps tables. Who are these people? These faces? Where do they come from? They look like caricatures of used car dealers from Dallas, but they're real. And sweet Jesus, look at the hell of a lot. There's a hell of a lot of them. Still screaming around the desert. City crap tables at 4:30 on a Sunday morning. Still humping the American dream. The vision that the big winner somehow emerging from the last minute pre-dawn chaos of a stale Vegas casino. Hold on, I gotta turn this sideways. It's too small. Big strike in Silver City. Beat the dealer and go home rich. Why not? I stopped at the money wheel and dropped $1 on the Thomas Jefferson. A $2 bill. The straight freak ticket. Thinking as always on some idle instinct might carry the whole thing off. Getting like 90 calls a second now, right when I started to read.
Hell yeah.
But no.
I'm gonna need to let you do this for a couple minutes while I change this shit.
I am going to turn off my internet because the Taikos are going wild right now. Wild.
Wow, boys.
It's some wild boys. All right. We are in utter disarray today. But no, just another $2 down the tube. You bastards. No, calm down. Learn to enjoy losing. The important thing is to cover this story on its own terms. Leave the other stuff to life and look, at least for now. On the way down the escalator, I saw the Life Man twisted feverishly into the telegraph booth, chanting his wisdom into the ear of some horny robot in a cubicle on the other coast. Indeed, Las Vegas at dawn. The riders are still asleep. The dust is still on the desert. $50,000 in prize money slumbers darkly in the office safe at Del Webb's fabulous Mint Hotel. in the bright heart of Casino Center. Extreme tension and the life team is here, as always, with a sturdy police escort. Pause. Yes, operator, that word was police. What else? Oh, this, after all, is a life special. The Red Shark was on Fremont, where I left it. I drove around to the garage and checked it in. Dr. Gonzo's car. No problem. And if any of your men fall idle, we can use the AWACS job before morning. Yes, of course. Just bill the room. My attorney was in the bathtub when I returned, submerged in the green water, the oily product of some Japanese bath salts he picked up in the hotel gift shop, along with a new AM/FM radio plugged into the electric razor socket. Top volume, some gibberish from a thing called Three Dog Night, about a frog named Jeremiah who wanted joy to the world. First lemon, now this, I thought. Next we'll have Glenn Campbell screaming, "Where have all the flowers gone?" Where indeed? No flowers in this town, only carnivorous plants. I turned the volume down and noticed a hunk of chewed up white paper beside the radio. My attorney seemed to notice the sound change. He was lost in a fog of green steam. Only half of his head was visible above the waterline. "You ate this?" I asked, holding up the white pad. He ignored me, but I knew. He would be very difficult to reach for the next 6 hours. The whole blotter was chewed up. "You evil son of a bitch," I said. "You better hope that there's some Thorazine in that bag, because if there's not, you're in bad trouble tomorrow." "Music!" he snarled. "Turn it up! Put the tape on!" "What tape?" "The new one, it's right there." I picked up the radio and noticed that it was also a tape recorder. One of those things with a cassette unit built in, and the tape, surrealistic pillow, needed only to be flipped over. He had already gone through side one, at a volume that must have been audible in every room within a radius of about 100 yards, walls and all. "White Rabbit," he said. "I want a rising sound." "You're doomed," I said. "I'm leaving here in just 2 hours, and they're going to come up here and beat the mortal shit out of you with big saps, right there in the tub." "I dig my own graves," he said. "Green water and the White Rabbit. Put it on. Don't make me use this." His arm lashed out of the tub with the hunting knife gripped in his fist. "Jesus," I muttered, and at that point I figured he was lying there in the tub with a head full of acid and the sharpest knife I'd ever seen, totally incapable of reason, demanding the White Rabbit. That's it, I thought. I've gone as far as I can with this waterhead. This time it's suicide trip. This time he wants it. He's ready. "Okay," I said, turning the tape over and pushing the play button. "But do me this one last favor. Will you? Give me 2 hours. That's all I ask. Just 2 hours to sleep before tomorrow. I suspect it's going to be a very difficult day." "Of course," he said. "I'm your attorney. I'll give you all the time you need. At my normal rates, $45 an hour. But you'll be wanting a cushion. So don't you want to lay one of those $100 bills down beside the radio and fuck off?" "How about a check?" I said. "On the Sawtooth National Bank. You won't need any ID to cash it there. They know me." "Whatever's right," he said, beginning to jerk with the music. The bathroom was like the inside of a huge defective woofer. Heinous vibrations, overwhelming sound. The floor was full of water. I moved the radio as far away from the tub as it would go, and then I left and closed the door behind me. Within seconds he was shouting, "Help! Help, you bastard! Indeed, help!" I rushed inside thinking he had sliced his ear off by accident. But no, he was reaching from the bathroom toward the white formica shelf where the radio sat. "I want that tuckin' radio," he snarled. I grabbed it away from him. "You fool," I said. "Get in that tub. Get away from that goddamned radio." I shoved it back from his hand.
He's gonna electrocute himself.
Yeah, exactly. I put it in the tub with him. The volume was so far up that it was hard to know what was playing unless you knew the surrealistic pillow almost note for note, which I did at the time. So I knew that White Rabbit had finished. The peak had come and had gone. But my attorney, it seemed, had not made it. He wanted more. "Back up the tape," he yelled. "I need it again." His eyes were full of craziness now, unable to focus. He seemed on the verge of some awful psychotic orgasm. "Let it roll," he screamed. "Just as high as the fucker can go. And when it comes to that fantastic note where the rabbit bites off its own head, I want you to throw that fucking radio in the tub with me." I stared at him, keeping a firm grip on the radio. "Not me," I said finally. "I'd be happy to ram a goddamn 440-volt cattle prod in that tub with you right now, but not this radio. It would blast you right through the wall stone dead in 10 seconds. I laughed. Shit. They'd make me explain it, drag me down to some rotten corners, inquest and grill me about, yes, the exact details. I don't need that. "Bullshit," he screamed. "Just tell them I wanted to be high. I just wanted to get higher." I thought for a moment. "Okay," I said finally. "You're right. This is probably the only solution." I picked up the tape/radio, which was still plugged in, and held it over the tub. "Just let me make sure I have it all lined up," I said. "You want me to throw this thing in the bathtub while the white rabbit peeks? Is that right?" He fell back in the water, smiled gratefully. "Fuck yes," he said. I was beginning to think that I was going to have to go out and get one of those goddamn maids to do it. "Don't worry," I said. "Are you ready?" I hit the play button, and White Rabbit started building again. Almost immediately, he began to howl and moan. Another fast run up the mountain, and thinking this time he would finally get over that top. His eyes were gripped shut, and only his head and both kneecaps poked through the oily green water. I let that song build while I sorted through a pile of fat, ripe grapefruits next to the basin. The biggest one of the lot weighed almost 2 pounds. I got a good Vita Blue Fate Ball grip on the fucker, and just as White Rabbit leaked, I lashed it into the tub like a cannonball. My attorney screamed crazily, thrashing about in the tub like a shark after meat, churning the water over on the floor as he struggled to get a hold of something. I jerked the AC cord out of the tape/radio and moved to the bathroom very quickly. The machine kept on playing, but now it was back with its own harmless battery power. I could hear the beat cooling down as I moved across the room to get my kit bag and fetched up the mace can. Just as my attorney ripped the bathroom door off and started out, his eyes were still unfocused, but he was waving the blade out in front of him like a man who meant to cut something. "Mace," I shouted. "You want this?" I waved the mace bomb in front of his watery eyes. He stopped. "You bastard," he hissed. "You wouldn't do that. You'd do that, wouldn't you?" I laughed, still waving the bomb at him. "Ha, why worry? You like it? Shit, there's nothing in the world like a mace high. 45 minutes on your knees with the dry heaves, gasping for breath. It'll calm you right down." He stared at my general direction, trying to focus. "You cheap honky son of a bitch," he muttered. "You'd do it, wouldn't you?" "Why not?" I said. "Hell, just a minute ago you were asking me to kill you, and now you want to kill me. What I should do, goddammit, is call the police." He sagged. "The cops?" I nodded. "Yeah, there's no choice. I wouldn't dare to go to sleep with a wandering around in this condition, with a head full of acid and wanting to slice me up with that goddamn knife." He rolled his eyes for a moment and then tried to smile. "Who said anything about slicing you up?" he mumbled. "I just wanted to carve a little Z on your forehead. Nothing serious." He shrugged and reached for a cigarette of the TV set. I menaced him again with the mace can. "Get back in that tub," I said. "Eat some Reds and try to calm down. Smoke some grass. Shoot some smack. Shit. Do whatever you have to do. But let me get some rest." He shrugged and smiled distractedly, as if I'd made perfect sense. "Hell yes," he said earnestly. "Hell yes," he said earnestly. "You really need some sleep. You have to work tomorrow." He shook his head sadly and turned around towards the bathroom. "God damn. What a bummer." He waved me off. "Try to rest," he said. "Don't let me keep you up." I nodded and watched him shuffle back into the bathroom, still holding the blade. But now he seemed unaware of it. The acid had shifted gears on him, and the next phase would probably be one of those hellishly intense introspective nightmares. For hours or so of catatonic despair, still nothing physical, nothing dangerous, I watched the door close behind him, and then I quickly slid the heavy, sharp angled chair up against the bathroom knob and put the mace beside the alarm clock. The room was very quiet. I walked over to the TV set and turned it to a dead channel. White noise at maximum decibels. A fine sound for sleeping. Powerful, continuous hiss to drown out everything strange. Start chapter 8 or keep going?
Well, you gotta find it. I can. If it's the beginning of a chapter, I can do it. Okay. So it's a quote. Genius around the world stands hand in hand, and one shock of recognition runs the whole circle around. From Art Linkletter. Who's Art Linkletter?
I don't know the name.
The mayor.
The mayor of Tinseltown.
I live in a quiet place where any sound at night means something is about to happen. You come awake fast thinking, what does that mean? Usually nothing, but sometimes it's hard to adjust to the city gig where the night is full of sounds, all of them comfortably routine. Cars, horns, footsteps, no way to relax. So drown it all out with a fine white drone of a cross-eyed TV set. Jam the bugger between channels and doze off nicely. Ignore that nightmare in the bathroom. Just another ugly referee from the love generation. Some doom-struck gimp who couldn't handle the pressure. My attorney has never been able to accept the notion, often espoused by reformed drug abusers and especially popular amongst those on probation, that you can get a lot higher without drugs than with them. And neither have I for that matter. But I once lived down the hill from Dr. on something road, a former acid guru, who later claimed to have made that long jump from chemical frenzy to preternatural consciousness. One fine afternoon, in the fine rising curl of what would soon become the great San Francisco acid wave, I stopped by the good doctor's house with the idea of asking him, since he was even then a known drug authority, what sort of advice he might have for a neighbor with a healthy curiosity about LSD.
It says in my copy of the book that that name that was redacted was deleted because of like a publisher insisted on it, a publisher's lawyer. So I assume he like doxed someone or like put someone's real name or address.
Maybe.
That's funny.
Does it have the name in your copy?
No. It says it has brackets and it says on dash road, comma / names deleted at insistence of publisher's lawyer. Excuse me.
Ooh, that's serious.
That's interesting.
I parked in the road and lumbered up his gravel driveway, passing en route to wave pleasantly at his wife, who was working in the garden under the brim of a huge seating hat. A good scene, I thought. The old man is inside, brewing up one of his fantastic drug stews, and here we see his woman out in the garden, pruning carrots or whatever, humming while she works, some tune I fail to recognize. Humming, yes, but it would be nearly 10 years before I recognized that sound for what it was. Like Ginsberg far off in the Ohm was trying to hum me off. There was no old lady out there in the garden. It was the good doctor himself, and his humming was a frantic attempt to block me out of his higher consciousness. I made several attempts to make myself clear. Just a neighbor had come to call and ask the doctor's advice about gobbling some LSD in my shack, just down the hill from his house. I did, after all, have weapons, and I like to shoot them, especially at night, when the great blue flame would leap out along with all that noise. And yes, the bullets too. We couldn't ignore that. Big balls of lead alloy firing around the valley at speeds up to 3,700 feet per second. But I always fired into the nearest hill, or failing that, into the blackness. I meant no harm. I just liked the explosions, and I was careful never to kill more than I could eat. Kill? I realized I could never properly explain that word to this creature toiling here in his garden. Had it ever eaten meat? Could it conjugate the verb hunt? Did it understand hunger, or grasp the awful fact that my income averaged around $32 a week that year? No hope of communication in this place. I recognized that, but not soon enough to keep the drug doctor from humming me all the way down his driveway and into the car and down the mountain road. Forget LSD, I thought. Look what it's done to that poor bastard. So I stuck with hash and rum for another 6 months or so, until I moved into San Francisco and found myself one night in a place called the Fillmore Auditorium. And that was that. One gray lump of sugar and boom! In my mind, I was right back there in the doctor's garden. Not on the surface, but underneath. poking through that finely cultivated earth like some kind of mutant mushroom, a victim of the drug explosion, a natural street freak just eating whatever came by. I recall one night in the Matrix when a road person came by in a big pack in his back, shouting, "Anybody need some LSD? I got all the makings right here. All I need is a place to cook." The manager was on him at once, mumbling, cool it, come on back to the office." I never saw him after that night. Before he was taken away, the road person distributed his samples. Huge white spancels. I went into the men's room to eat mine, but only half at first, I thought. Good thinking, but a hard thing to accomplish under the circumstances. I ate the first half, but spilled the rest on my sleeve of my red Pendleton shirt, and then wondering what to do with it, I saw one of the musicians come in. "What's the trouble?" he said. "Well, all this white stuff on my sleeve is LSD. He said nothing, merely grabbed my arm and began sucking on it. A very gross tableau. I wondered what would happen if some Kingston Trio young stockbroker type might wander in and catch us in the act. Fuck him, I thought. With a bit of luck, it'll ruin his life forever, thinking that just behind some narrow door in all his favorite bars, men in red Pendleton shirts are getting incredible kicks from things he'll never know. Would he dare to suck a sleeve? Probably not. Play it safe. Pretend you never saw it. Strange memories on this nervous night in Las Vegas. 5 years later? 6? Seems like a lifetime. Or at least a main area. Kind of peak that never comes again. San Francisco in the middle 60s was a very special time and place to be a part of. Maybe it meant something. Maybe not in the long run. But no explanation, no mix of words or music or memories can touch that sense of knowing that you were there and alive in that corner of the world, corner of time, whatever it meant. History is hard to know because of all the hired bullshit, but even without being sure of history, it seems entirely reasonable to think that every now and then the whole energy of a generation comes to a head in a long, fine flash for reasons that nobody really understands at the time, and which never explain in retrospect what actually happened. My central memory of that time seems to hang on 1 or 5 or maybe 40 nights or very early mornings when I left that Fillmore half crazy and instead of going home, aimed the big 650 Lightning across the Bay Bridge at 100 miles an hour wearing LL Bean shorts and a Butte sheepherder's jacket, booming through the Treasure Island Tunnel at the lights of Oakland and Berkeley and Richmond. I'm not quite sure which turnoff to take when I got to the other end. Always stalling at the toll gate too, trying to find neutral while I fumbled for change. But being absolutely certain that no matter which way I went, I would come to a place where people were just as high and as wild as I was. No doubt at all about that. There was madness in any direction, at any hour. If not across the bay, then up the Golden Gate, or down 101 to Los Altos, or La Honda. You could strike sparks anywhere. There was a frantic universal sense that whatever we were doing was right, that we were winning. Swap?
Sure.
We don't go too long.
And that, I think, was the handle. That sense of inevitable victory over the forces of the old and evil. Not in any mean or military sense. We didn't need that. Our energy would simply prevail. There was no point in fighting, on our side or theirs. We had all the momentum. We were riding the crest of a high and beautiful wave. So now, less than 5 years later, you can go up on a steep hill in Las Vegas and look west, and with the right kind of eye, you can almost see the high water mark, that place where the wave finally broke and rolled back.
That 8? Jeez.
Yeah.
Should have just finished that.
I wonder why you stopped, but mine's a lot easier to see. Yours is like that reader, so.
Well, mine is, page by page.
Yeah, sometimes you don't know. Mine's like a Word document. Chapter 9. Sympathy for the devil. Newsmen tortured. Flight into madness. The decision to flee came suddenly. Or maybe not. Maybe I'd planned it all along, subconsciously waiting for the right moment. The bill was a factor, I think, because I had no money to pay it. And no more of this devilish credit card reimbursement deals, not after dealing with Sydney Zion. They seized my American Express card after that one, and now the bastards are suing me, along with the Diners Club and the IRS. And besides, the magazine is legally responsible. My attorney saw to that. We signed nothing, except those room service tabs. We never knew the total, but just before we left, my attorney figured we were running somewhere between $29 and $36 per hour for 48 consecutive hours.
Huh.
Incredible, I said. How could that happen? But by the time I had asked the question, there was nobody around to answer. My attorney was gone. He must have sensed trouble. On Monday evening, he ordered up a set of fine cowhide luggage from his room service. He told me he had reservations on the next plane to L.A. We would have to hurry, he said, and on the way to the airport, he borrowed $25 for the plane ticket. I saw him off, then I went back to the airport souvenir counter and spent all the rest of my cash on garbage. Complete shit. Souvenirs from Las Vegas, plastic fake Zippo lighters with a built-in roulette wheel for $6.95, JFK half-dollar clips for $5 each, 10 apes that shook dice for $7.50. I loaded up on this crap, then carried it out to the Great Red Shark and dumped it all in the back seat. And then I stepped into the driver's seat in a very dignified way. The white top was rolled back as always, and I sat there and turned on the radio and began thinking. How would Horatio Alger handle this situation? One toke over the line. Sweet Jesus. One toke over the line. Panic. It crept up my spine like the first rising vibes of an acid frenzy. All these horrible reptiles began to draw on me.
Realities.
Oh, realities. Sorry, I've got reptilians on the brain after some of our conversations today.
Reptophilia.
Reptilians. Ooh. All these horrible realities began to dawn on me. Here I was alone on in Las Vegas with this goddamned incredibly expensive car, completely twisted on drugs, no attorney, no cash, no story for the magazine. And on top of everything else, I had a gigantic goddamn hotel bill to deal with. We had ordered everything into the room that human hands could carry, including about 600 bars of translucent Neutrogena soap. The whole car was full of it, all over the floors, the seats, the glove compartment. My attorney had worked out some kind of arrangement with the mestizo maids on our floor to have the soap delivered to us. 600 bars of this weird transparent shit. And now it was all mine. Along with the plastic briefcase that I had suddenly noticed right beside me on the front seat, I lifted the fucker and knew immediately what was inside. No Samoan attorney in his right mind is going to stomp through the metal detectors of a commercial airline with a fat black 357 Magnum on his person. So he had left it with me for delivery. If I made it back to L.A., otherwise, well, I could almost hear myself talking to the California Highway Patrol. What? This weapon? This loaded, unregistered, concealed, maybe hot 357 Magnum? What am I doing with it? Well, you see, officer, I pulled off the road near Mescal Springs on the advice of my attorney, who subsequently disappeared, and all of a sudden, while I was sort of walking around in the deserted waterhole by myself for no reason at all, while a little fellow came up, with a beard came up, to me out of nowhere. He had this horrible linoleum knife in one hand, and a huge black pistol in the other hand. He offered to carve a big X on my forehead in the memory of Lieutenant Calley. But when I told him I was a doctor of journalism, his whole attitude changed. Yes, you probably won't believe this, officer, but he suddenly hurled that knife into the brackish Mescal waters near our feet and then gave me this revolver. Right? He just shoved it into my hands, butt first. And then he ran off into the darkness. So that's why I have this weapon, officer. Can you believe that? No. But I wasn't about to throw the bastard away either. A good 357 is a hard thing to get these days. So I figured, well, just get this bugger back to Malibu, and it's mine. My risk, my gun. It made perfect sense. And if that Samoan pig wanted to argue, if he wanted to come yelling around the house, give him a taste of that bugger around midway up the femur. Indeed, 158 grains of half-jacketed lead alloy traveling 1,500 feet per second equals about 40 pounds of Samoan hamburger, mixed up with bone splinters. Why not? Madness. Madness. And while all alone with that great red shark in the parking lot of the Las Vegas airport, to hell with this panic. Get a grip. Maintain. For the next 24 hours of this matter of personal control will be critical. Here I am sitting out here alone in this fucking desert and this nest of armed loonies with a very dangerous carload hazards, horrors, and liabilities that I must get back to LA. If they nail me out here, I'm doomed. Completely fucked. No question about that. No future for a doctor of journalism editing the State Pen Weekly. Better to get the hell away from this atavistic state and at high speed. Right. But first to the Mint Hotel and cash a $50 check. Then up to the room and call down two club sandwiches, 2 quarts of milk, a pot of coffee, and a fifth of Bacardi Anjo. Rum will be absolutely necessary to get through this night. To polish these notes, this shameful diary. Keep the tape machine swirling screaming all night long at the top volume. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. Sympathy? Not for me. No mercy for a criminal freak in Las Vegas. This place is like the army. The shark ethic prevails. Eat the wounded. In a closed society where everybody's guilty, the only crime is getting caught. In a world of thieves, the only final sin is stupidity. It is a weird feeling to sit in a Vegas hotel at 4 a.m, hunkered down with a notebook and a tape recorder in a $75 a day suite, and a fantastic room service bill run up 48 hours of total madness. Knowing that just as soon as the dawn comes, you're going to flee without paying a fucking penny. Go stomping out through the lobby and call your red convertible down from the garage, and stand there waiting for it with a suitcase full of marijuana and illegal weapons. Trying to look casual. Scanning the first morning edition of the Las Vegas Sun. This was the final step. I had taken all the grapefruit and other luggage out to the car a few hours earlier. Now it was only a matter of slipping the noose. Yes, extremely casual behavior. Wild eyes hidden behind these Saigon mirror sunglasses, waiting for a shark to roll up. Where is it? I gave that evil pimp of a car boy $5. A prime investment now. Stay calm. Keep reading the paper. The lead story of a screaming blue headline across the top of the page. Trio rearrested in beauty death. An overdose of heroin was listed as the official cause of death. Pretty Diane Hamby, 19, whose body was found stuffed in a refrigerator last week, according to Clark County Coroner's Office. Investigators of the sheriff's homicide team, who went down to arrest the suspects, said that a 24-year-old woman, attempted to fling herself through the glass doors of her trailer before being stopped by deputies. Officers said that she was apparently hysterical and shouted, "You'll never take me alive!" But officers handcuffed the woman, and she was apparently not injured. GI drugs death claims, Washington, AP. A House subcommittee report says illegal drugs killed 160 American and GIs last year, 40 of them in Vietnam. Drugs were suspected, it said, in another 56 military deaths in Asia and the Pacific Command. It said heroin's problem in Vietnam is increasing in seriousness, primarily because of the processing laboratories in Laos, Thailand, and Hong Kong. Drug suppression in Vietnam is almost completely ineffective, the report said, partially because of the ineffective local police force and partially because presently unknown corrupt officials in public office are involved in the drug trafficking. To the left of the grim notice was a four-column center page photo of Washington D.C. cops fighting with young anti-war demonstrators who staged a sit-in and blocked the entrance to the Selective Service headquarters. And next to the photo was a large black headline. Take over.
Torture tallies told in war hearings. Washington. Volunteer witnesses told an informal congressional panel yesterday that while serving as military interrogators, they routinely used electrical telephone hookups and helicopter drops to torture and kill Vietnamese prisoners. One Army intelligence specialist said the pistol slaying of his Chinese interpreter was defended by a superior who said she was just a slope anyways, meaning she was an Asiatic. Right underneath that story was a headline saying, 5 wounded near NYC tenement by an unidentified gunman who fired from the roof of his building for no apparent reason. This item appeared just above a headline that said, Pharmacy owner arrested and probe. A result, the article explained, of a preliminary investigation of a Las Vegas pharmacy showing a shortage of over 100,000 pills considered dangerous drugs. Reading the front page made me feel a lot better. Against that heinous background, my crimes were pale and meaningless. I was a relatively respected citizen, a multiple felon perhaps, but certainly not dangerous. And when the great scorer came to write my name, that would surely make a difference. Or would it? I turned to the sports page and saw a small item about Muhammad Ali. His case was before the Supreme Court. His final appeal, he'd been sentenced to 5 years in prison for refusing to kill Slopes. I ain't got nothing against them Viet Congs, he said. 5 years. Wait, didn't he give them his credit card when he checked in?
I don't remember. I think yes, because his lawyer took it from him and handled it, but I can't totally remember. It's been so long since we read the first chapter, I can't remember all the details.
I remember he was saying, "Of course, the gentleman has a acceptable credit card."
Oh
or
yeah,
something like
that's
that.
right. Yeah, you're right.
You want to stop here?
Yeah, we probably should. Do you know about like the Ali fight that he like missed?
No. Oh, because he was high or something.
Well, yeah, and it's like more complicated than that though. So basically
Because I got high.
he went to Africa for the
Sure he did.
Ali Foreman fight, and pretty much everyone was like, for sure that Foreman was like gonna kill Ali because Ali was like kind of getting out of his prime, and Foreman was like a killer, man. Like that dude would there's like a famous fight with him and Joe Frazier where he punches Joe Frazier, who, if anyone knows that guy, is a mammoth of a man.
I've heard the name, but I mean I don't know what it is.
Yeah, well, any like, I'm not like even a boxing fan, but like I know about Joe Frazier, and so Foreman like hits him and like picks the dude up off his feet. Like that's an incredible punching power. So everyone's sure. So I think part of it, yeah, was drugs, but like I think also Thompson loved Ali. Like he seemed to have a real affinity for the guy. And I think he thought he was gonna get like embarrassed, and he didn't want to watch it. So instead, he blew it off and didn't go to the fight, and Ali won, obviously, which was like, it was one of the greatest fights in boxing history, and Thompson just missed it, which is like a common theme in his life. Like when Nixon was impeached and forced to leave, well, he wasn't, anyway, when he resigned and left the White House, Thompson was like supposed to go, and instead he didn't. He just like,
why?
I don't know. That's like it's a complicated question. I assume it's like kind of like he got what he wanted because
high on pant.
He hated Nixon, right? But he just wanted to get him. I mean, once he was gone, like he missed it. He did do like a really good piece on it, but like he didn't actually see it in person, which is like, I don't know. Like some of that is like kind of emblematic of his like decline in his career and like kind of sad, but.
Well, Nixon's resignation was like way early. I thought you were saying he was active until the 90s.
He was, yeah, he was. But I don't know. It depends who you talk to. Like some people think he was like amazing throughout, and I think he had amazing articles throughout. But most people who like study him, that I've heard talk about him, say that his consistency definitely took a big hit, and he. Not just because of the drugs either, also because of his celebrity and the fact that he had like this character, you know. So he's like trying to become this character. We can talk about that some other time. I can tell you about the false sleep.
I mean, the whole book is just weird, man. It's like it's not linear. There's nothing linear here. It's just
he literally was just reading a newspaper, like
yeah, exactly,
like reprinting a newspaper.
Exactly. he's just like going through it's not even the headlines. There's like details from these articles here.
It's absurd, a little bit absurdist, but it's
an
interesting style, and it still can communicate a message sometimes.
This book is not how I remembered it. I haven't read this book in probably, not exaggerating, 15 years. And this is not how I remember it.
Well, when you're younger, it hits different, right?
Yeah, when you're a child and don't understand much about the world, you're like, wow, cool, he's going to Vegas by himself and doing all kinds of dangerous things. Now it's like, this man is a psychopathic degenerate. Like, But I mean, I understand him in a different way too, because I can tell you right now, I've had a lot more experiences closer to him this age than I did when I was 15. When I
Yeah. Of course. Well, and also I mean, he also exaggerates some of this stuff. Like he definitely like did copious amounts of drugs and alcohol and illegal stuff, but he also exaggerated or embellished things. Like he's
sure all the numbers are just bullshit.
well, he also wanted to be like I mean, he was a novelist. Like one of the first things he wrote was a novel. So I think he also has that like artistic style to his writing where he embellishes or like I think you made a good point last time when you were just kind of describing gonzo journalism on the first book club where you said like the author is involved in the story. And I think for Thompson and by proxy that's like gonzo journalism, I think that is true, but I think it became even more and more so over Thompson's career and over his life.
I mean, he was like the doctor of this form of journalism, so it's not surprising that it followed him.
Exactly, and because he was so famous, there's no way he could do a story at the end of his, or even in the middle of his career without becoming part of it. Like there's stories of him going to like try to interview Nixon and stuff, and all of Nixon's bodyguards are like trying to meet Hunter, like shake his hand and get his autograph and shit. So you literally can't extricate yourself from that story. Like you can no longer be just like that journalist guy who's just like you're the New York Post reporter, whatever. Like your name's Bob, and you get called on occasionally at a press conference. Like no, you go somewhere to report on a story, everyone fucking knows.
You are the story.
You have become the story. Yeah. So it's interesting, but yeah, reading some of his other writings and listening to some of his first book he's a really good writer.
Good night.
Love you guys. FCP最大。